Raw review for the January 13th episode of Raw. I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers. Talk about some wrestling.
Yeah, second episode of Raw on Netflix. And I gotta say, I enjoyed this one more.
Spectacular episode of Raw.
No filler.
Phenomenal.
No filler. Boom, 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 boom.
Great matches. Great everything. Let's get into it.
30 minutes shortened, I guess, technically. Yeah. They said, we don't need that extra 30 minutes filler. Let's just end the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it. CM Punk, he opens the show after his win last week over Mr. Seth Rollins. Not Miss Seth Rollins. I mean, I guess his wife is the man, so he might be the missus. I don't know.
Sometimes his attire.
Yeah.
His outfits.
He goes, Seth Rollins is no longer on my plate. He's in the past. And speaking of the Royal Rumble last year, I got injured at the Royal Rumble. He said, I couldn't see my dream anymore after last year. And I do that because he did it. He did a little John Cena homage there. And he goes, but I see my dream now. And he pointed to the invisible WrestleMania sign like he's done before. And he goes, I am ready for this comeback. And speaking of comebacks, I think my friend John Cena is about to pull off the greatest one of all time. And he declared for the Royal Rumble. So guess what? I'm also going to declare for the Royal Rumble. So I am going to win the Rumble. Play my song. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Seth Rollins. We thought.
Seth Rollins music hits. Boom. And when he comes out, he has a black eye. Good shiner, because last week he took a good old knee from a GTS from CM Punk after the match. You could see in videos from people that Punk even told the ref to check on him right afterwards. So good guy Punk. These guys love each other at the end of the day. I mean, they have animosity, but they're professionals.
They're professionals,
right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they love each other.
Yeah.
Professionals.
He goes, you can't be surprised I'm here. I said I would be here, and I told you that I would be. I'm a man of my word. You are not a man of the word. You are not. And Punk said, I might not be a man of my word, but I am the winner. And Seth said, I'd rather be the worst version of me than be you. I've lost big matches, but last week was the worst ever. I am looking for redemption, and I see no better way to get redemption than to see your dream flush down the toilet. So I'm coming for you at the Royal Rumble, and I'm not just going to win the Rumble, but I'm going to send you over the top rope. So now Mr. Seth Rollins has declared for the Royal Rumble when Drew McIntyre's music hits. It's like Oprah. Everybody gets a Royal Rumble. And he comes out and he talks about how they basically are all, or he starts saying that whenever I walk out here, you seem to just stoop lower and lower and lower. And when he says that, CM Punk thinks that he's talking about him. So Punk goes, you know what? Last time you and I got in a ring together, you were crying on the mat covered in blood after I beat you at Hell in a Cell. And Drew goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Mr. Seth freaking Rollins. And we went, oh. That's a turn of events.
Audible just, okay.
That's a turn of events. He basically says, not everything revolves around you, Seth. You are losing the point. He goes, there are bigger things. Roman is trying to regain power, and you are doing nothing to stop it. You are pathetic. And when he says that, CM Punk is kind of just ready to go. So he gets on the mic, even though Drew's trash talking Seth, and he challenges Drew, and then Seth's like, no, I kind of want to fight you. We have unfinished business. So they start to square off in the ring, CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Drew takes the mic and he goes, oh, so we want to do this right now? Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk in San Jose? And he starts walking down to the ring, and then he goes, no, I'm not going to do that because I got my sights set on trying to stop Roman Reigns. In fact, I think the best way to stop Roman Reigns, because he already has the falafel, he said it, is to go win the Royal Rumble myself and take the championship before that. And then that's it. That's the end of the promo. So boom. This was absolutely fantastic. I just want to pop it right away before we get into it.
Yeah, it's gold. I mean, these three, like Punk coming out and Punk taking his little victory lap as we kind of thought that he would. And then you have Rollins coming out kind of being the commendable guy. Like, yeah, you were the better man basically, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to fight you again. Like I'm ready to go again. Let's do it again. Then you incorporate Drew McIntyre, who's got a history with both of them. And you got Drew kind of stirring the pot. And then he targets Seth and for Punk to speak up. And then he's like, no, I wasn't talking about you. It's like, oh, well, that was an element that I guess we all, I mean, you could read between the lines. You knew eventually it was going to happen, but tonight for them to acknowledge it, you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, so basically the end of this promo ends with like, you have Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew all declaring for the Rumble, but you have Seth and Punk who are doing it for personal reasons against each other, while Drew has now completely changed his mindset toward the playing field, and he's like, I don't give a shit about any of you guys anymore. I just care about stopping Roman Reigns. So you have that, and then later in the night, Seth Rollins runs into Sami Zayn, and he's like, hey, you had a good week last week because your boy Roman got his Ulafala back. So where does this stop? Are you going to help him win the title to beat Cody Rhodes? Are you going to help him win Royal Rumble? Like, where does this stop? And when you start thinking about you? So we have these inklings of Drew and Seth. They're starting to change their mindset toward maybe thinking about going after Roman Reigns, which is really starting to make me think that faction's going to form.
Yeah, and it really, I guess, kind of raises a question because we fast forward to a little bit later in the night anyway. We find out that next week we get Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, oh God, okay, like sign me up. That's fantastic. But they both have the same agenda, basically. They want to stop Roman Reigns at the end of the day. But I guess my big thing is like, I don't know how they're going to do it next week. Because they both want to stop Roman Reigns, but they both also like kind of hate Punk, but they're also like, their pride is so much there that they're like, you know what, I'm so prideful that like I can beat you anytime, anywhere. So like, let's fight about it sort of thing. And it's like, there's so much intrigue and there's so many different branches that they can go off of this that it's just like, I don't know how they're going to go about it. I think it is nice to see Drew kind of continue to acknowledge the Roman Reigns thing. And Seth, those two so far have been, on the Raw side, you have those two and Kevin. So back to your main point, like I feel like we have to get that faction.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't get because you find out later in the night that some of like OG Bloodline's kind of tied up in some stuff. So maybe it's Sammy is there, but maybe it's Roman. And I mean, who knows? They have so much of a history in the past. I could see Punk also somehow teaming with them. So maybe it's Punk, Sammy, Roman versus Seth, Drew, KO of some way, some sort. Sometime. We keep saying we're running out of time because we kind of are, but like it's kind of a good problem to have right now.
There's just a lot of good seeds being planted, man. A lot of good seeds. But the night started off hot, and then Chad Gable walks out to the ring, and he's fighting an unknown man. Even though earlier today on the WWE shop they dropped all the Penta merchandise. So Penta comes out, and Michael Cole immediately says, the worst kept secret in professional wrestling, Penta is now on Raw. And it was like, thank God that he leaned into it because the whole world knew. And it's just better that way, right? Mm-hmm. It's just better that way. But good Lord, were we treated to some good old wrestling here. So they would start out, and obviously Chad Gable's playing the heel. So it's back and forth technical wrestling to begin. Chad is definitely doing all the long holds. He's making people boo the hell out of him because we all know we're here to see Penta do some crazy stuff. But eventually, we would get some crazy stuff happening. Gable would German suplex Penta onto the apron, and then he would drag him over to the post and start beating his leg up with the post and do some leg locks in the ring. So he was basically, Chad was trying to take out Penta's best weapon, which is his legs, right? And then Gable would eventually go for a diving headbutt off the top rope, but he would miss it, and Penta would try to get up and do a comeback, but he was overselling the leg. The leg was hurt. He couldn't do anything, so Gable would throw Penta to the turnbuckle. So the beginning of this match and most of the first 2/3 was Gable getting the best of this new talent, but we would eventually get some battle of the chops where they're both on their knees smacking each other. Penta's chops are absolutely freaking brutal. The guys are absolutely insane, but Penta would get up, sling blade him, suicide flip over the top rope to Chad Gable, who just like decided not to catch the poor dude. Penta landed right on the goddamn floor. It must have hurt. Backstabber when they got into the ring, all good stuff. He did a Mexican destroyer, and that would lead to a 1-2-ooh, and then Chad would get up, put him in an ankle lock. So we're getting a bunch of back and forth there. But Penta would eventually hit the sacrifice, just like a special arm breaker that Penta does. Pick him up, put Chad into the Penta driver. 1, 2, 3. Penta wins, and he declares that this is not just a new era for the WWE, but it is the Penta era. So we get it. Penta has debuted on Monday Night Raw. He puts on a phenomenal match with Chad Gable, gets the win here. Penta era begins. I could not be happier for him. Pop.
Yeah, you really have to pop this. The only small thing you could say is early in the match, you could see Penta had a little bit of early match jitters. I would say they're jitters, right? And then at the end of the day, he settled in, was ready to go. I mean, there were some people on our chat that have said, I haven't seen Penta wrestle before. And it's you're going to be in for a treat. Penta's one of those special people. He's one of the tops in the ring. He can do the acrobatic stuff. I thought it was fantastic tonight because it wasn't a squash match. So you got to see the technical stuff. You got to see the high-flying stuff. You got to see the physical stuff. You got to see that he's got probably the best chops in the game. I mean, it's either him or Gunther. It depends on who you ask on which day, how hard they want to throw him. This was just phenomenal. I mean, this was fantastic. Perfect debut for Penta. I'm glad they kind of held off from what the original plan was. They pivoted to this for the debut. And it was nice that WWE leaned in and said, hey, worst kept secret, because everybody knew. Everybody wanted it. We got it. It delivered. And they made it feel like a big deal. I thought that was really important. It wasn't just here's a new guy we got. Everybody, it's Penta. No, they brought it. They made sure to hammer this home. It delivered on the production value of hey, this is the top guy. You got to take him seriously, and he's here. And I thought it was really important that they gave him that kind of promo after the match too. Hey, here you go. Say what you got to say. And that's something I don't think we've seen from WWE in a long time.
Yeah, the worst kept secret in all of wrestling that was backed up by phenomenal production. I mean, he walked out and his entrance got all the pyro, sweet gear, gave him a great 15-minute match to begin. We didn't need to see him just walk out and squash anybody. Let us see what he can do in a full match. What he did with Chad Gable was phenomenal. Hopefully they don't just try to throw him in with LWO and stuff like that. Let this man stand on his own. Let him do the great things that he can do, because he is one of the best in the ring. And I think that we can finally get a luchador back into the main title scene down the line. He can do that if you do it right. And most importantly, so happy that the crowd knew who this guy was and gave him the proper props. So the proper pops. So it was good to see a crowd that actually, it was a perfect crowd for him, basically. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, you could definitely have a deliver on the wrong crowd, and everybody there is and they don't really drive that point home. You say hopefully he doesn't go with LWO. Early thoughts seem like it's maybe New Day next week with Ray and somebody else, so maybe that is Penta with how they were hinting at it. Hopefully that's just a one-off. Hopefully that's just a one-time thing. Please get him away from that. Don't have him anywhere near that. As you talk about the main title scene, him and Gunther have gone at it before.
Yep.
I also thought it was nice WWE acknowledged Penta's time in other promotions and in TNA and things like that, and Lucha Underground got a shout-out as well. Him and Gunther have great chemistry. I know, obviously, not anytime soon, but you look down the line, who's Gunther's maybe next few people, to be honest, you could sign me up any day of the week for that.
Build them right and do that type of stuff, and I'm down for it. We move it on, though. Judgment Day is in the back, and Finn is being a sarcastic asshole to Miss Liv, who just lost her title last week. He was basically how's that revenge tour going? And Liv replied, and she said the revenge tour was not all about the championship. It was about taking everything away from Rhea Ripley, and I did just that. And Finn, instead of arguing with her, kind of points to Dom and goes, I think you have something to address in the room. And he's laughing about it. And Dom is carrying a bunch of roses because he obviously tried to hug Rhea Ripley at the end of the match last week. And Liv responds by saying, Daddy Dom, I am not mad at you, but what you're going to do tonight is you are going to go get all my bags. You are going to be our valet for me and Raquel. So basically, she was having him do all the errands. Dom was in the doghouse, is what he was tonight. He tried to walk over to Finn and talk about how Finn has a match against Damian Priest tonight, because Finn was saying how he's going to beat Damian tonight, and then him and JD are going to go win the tag team championships and all that jazz. And Finn said, how about you just focus on getting Liv's bags? So that was something.
You popping?
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think it is important here.
I'm going to drop it because of what I think is going to happen from it.
Yeah, I'm dropping it because you can go into what you think is going to happen. I'll just take it at surface level tonight. You have the weird Dom interaction last week that we talked about. You have him trying to once again say sorry to Liv. It is kind of important to note, I feel like he only got Liv the one bouquet versus Rhea was the whole room. Maybe that's reading too much into it, but it seems kind of weird. It's also, I'm dropping it because that's all you get to see of Dom tonight. Yep. And more importantly, I think that's all you get to see of Liv.
Yeah.
Like, Liv lost her title last week.
What are you going to do?
You get a 2-minute thing, and that's all you get. You're not coming out to the ring. You're not getting anything.
Yeah.
Like, surface level, like, it was awful.
Yeah. Dom was in the doghouse tonight. He obviously deserved it. He almost, he tried to hug Rhea Ripley last week after the match and stuff like that. My fear is that with Liv's kind of nonchalant attitude towards that action is that we are going to play out the story of like Liv was just using Dom the whole time. And I would very much dislike that. I think that Liv and Dom should be utilized more now than they were then. I think they would really excel without Rhea being involved. And I think that we should try to create stories for them away from Rhea instead of just immediately breaking them up. Obviously, this is just speculation. It's just one day, so that might not be where they're going. So I just hope they don't break up Liv Dom.
Yeah, I think it's also important before we'll get to it this other part later in, but I'll say one more thing before we move on. It's important to me to note later on in the night, you get some segments, or a segment, I should say, including Rhea, and you kind of get some sort of vision for what may or may not happen. The Liv stuff is just like, yeah, you lost your title. That's it. We don't really have a plan. Kind of here you go. And it's like, that's a really bad job from WWE, frankly. Like, she held the title for so long. She's supposed to come out looking strong at the end. She looks weak. And now you have no story. Like, you got no.
Yeah.
What do you do?
What about Liv Dom? Any thoughts?
I mean, I hope they stay together. I thought that they were great for TV. I thought they were fantastic. I still find the whole Dom stuff weird, why he went back to Rhea, and there's really no acknowledgement of that tonight from Rhea's side of things either, so it makes it even more weirder, I guess. You're probably right with what you're saying, but I hope you're wrong.
Yeah, me too. But we stumble on to another banger match, including the banger maker, Sheamus. He's taking on Ludwig Kaiser, which we would find out is a number one contender for the IC title, Braun Breaker, because these three are in a forever feud with each other, which the match quality is so high that all of us are like, you know what? Fine.
Yeah, I don't care. It's almost like the Carmelo Andrade, best of 7.
Yeah.
You three just run this back some way, somehow, forever.
They obviously have fought many times, and they don't like each other. So they're very mad at the beginning. It was back and forth, stiff fighting. They get to the outside of the ring, and they'd work. Ludwig was throwing him off the announce table. He ended up throwing Sheamus against a barricade, and then he would do his run around the ring, drop kick to Sheamus against a barricade, which was really nasty. And then he would dominate during the commercial break. He'd do some Kaiser rolls, all the good stuff. Eventually, Sheamus would make his big old comeback. He'd get his 10 beats of the Balor, and he'd go a second rope and do a white noise to Ludwig off that. And Ludwig went over and found the shillelagh, and he tried to use it as a weapon, but Sheamus beat him to it basically and got him with a good old high knee. And then, but Ludwig Kaiser would actually reverse the next move, hit another Kaiser roll and go for the 1, 2, 3, but it wouldn't hit. And then when they got up, Mr. Ludwig would try to load up a brogue kick himself. He'd try to do a brogue kick and, taunt Sheamus with it, but obviously he would miss. And when he missed, Sheamus connected with one for himself. And Sheamus gets the win here over Ludwig Kaiser. After the match, he does do a little bit of a stare down with Braun Breaker, and they shove each other once. But phenomenal match here. I got to pop it, but it is official. We are going to get Sheamus versus Braun Breaker at Saturday Night Main Event for the IC title. Is it time to give Sheamus what's it called? I'm missing it.
The Grand
Slam title? Yeah, time to make Sheamus a Grand Slam champion?
I'm going to go ahead and say no on that one. Not that I don't want him to get it. I think if he gets that Grand Slam, or I should say when he gets it, it should be at a Mania. It should feel really big. If we learned anything from kind of the last Saturday Night Main Event, I feel like nothing's really going to kind of happen at the end of the day, especially with Rumble right around the corner after that. As for this match goes, fantastic stuff. I mean, like I said, it's almost like the Andrade Carmelo stuff. You run out of words to kind of talk about the matches because they deliver every time, and it's like, yeah, I could watch this forever. It sucks that Kaiser kind of keeps getting on the loss side of things.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks a little bit, but I do think he's going to probably some way, somehow show up at Saturday Night Main Event. Maybe they don't have a clean finish there because, in my opinion at least, I don't think the title's going to change hands, but I also don't think you can just clean pin Sheamus.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some sort of shenanigans some way, somehow. Kind of keep delaying that until Mania probably. But any sort of these three in the ring, one-on-one, it doesn't matter. 5 stars.
I'm with you. If Sheamus is going to do it, I think it should be a WrestleMania moment. I think he just deserves that type of moment for it. And I think it's too soon to pull the title off Braun because we really haven't seen the dude ever since the Raw Netflix deal started shaping up. They're going to have a great match at Saturday Night Main Event. Ludwig, like you said, might get involved. I think that Ludwig may be on his way over to SmackDown, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But either way, this match is going to be arguably match of the night that night. Hopefully Braun Breaker after that can be utilized a little bit more, and then Sheamus is going to continue to be Sheamus and find himself back in that picture around Mania.
Yeah, it also makes it kind of tough for me to envision Braun dropping this title at Saturday Night Main Event, because then it's like, well, you look ahead to, we're right around the corner at that point from Mania season, basically, and I don't think that's enough time for him to kind of build up and maybe, whenever he does drop that IC title, we all assume he's going to go to that next level. So I feel like you could just clean break that off at Mania.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. We already spoke about Drew versus Seth happening. Random turn of events here. Karrion Kross announces that Wyatt 6 have moved to SmackDown. A lot of people have expressed their sort of disappointment or a little frustration with how Wyatt 6 have been way too slowly being utilized on Raw. What do you expect from them on SmackDown? Is that a good decision?
I would say surface level, it's probably a good decision because we talk about how SmackDown is starving for something. So at least they're going to get more screen time, I think, or at least they should. I don't know if they will, but they should. SmackDown at least has the capability to do that. Maybe you can have them kind of more individually or tag. Maybe you don't have all of them go out there again. But you think about kind of the main targets right away. Maybe you got like a DIY for the main target with Gargano turning his back on Motor City, but also I don't really like that idea. You look at the Bloodline stuff on SmackDown, don't really like that idea either. So you look at maybe the roster on surface level for SmackDown and you're like, I don't really like it. But to me, it seems almost as if WWE acknowledges, hey, we've got too much talent on Raw. We got to put them somewhere. Let's just push them over to SmackDown and see what happens.
Yeah. When the transfer portal was announced, these were one of the teams that I wanted to head over to SmackDown. But to me, it doesn't matter where they are if they're not going to be utilized. If they go to SmackDown and they're utilized just like they were on Raw, it won't matter. They'll still be in a lull. Mm-hmm. There are a couple intriguing things, like you said. You could do the DIY stuff. People are going to immediately want the Bloodline stuff. I really don't hope that happens because I just think that at that point, the Bloodline story would be getting stale as can be. I don't think it would help anybody. I'm intrigued because I think SmackDown does have a lot of holes that they could fill with the Wyatt 6, and I think that is going to make them utilize them more. So I'm intrigued to see it, but I'm not going to believe it till I see it, basically.
Yeah, I think that's probably a great way to put it. We held out so much hope for Wyatt 6, and some people could say that was bad of us or shame on us or hey, good for you, but they showed us that, or I guess they didn't really give us a reason to care.
Yeah.
And so it's I'm not going to sit here and hold my breath thinking you're going to give me that when you haven't before.
Exactly. Gunther, he wasn't on the Netflix premiere, champion, but he's on this one. He comes out, and we're like, what the hell are you going to do? And he basically talks about how Netflix was pretty cool last week, but he noticed that the roster ain't good enough for Netflix.
He should have talked about the Fortnite logo.
Yeah, he should have. What is this Fortnite?
There was no Fortnite logo this week, though.
Yeah, no Fortnite logo this week. But he said this roster cannot fulfill Netflix. Everybody wants to fight over Ulafalas and who's the man and the best in the world. The only prize worth fighting for is this. And he pulls up his championship. And the second he pulls that title out, Jey Uso's music hits. And we're like, oh, okay, what is this? And Mr. Jey Uso comes out and he goes, you know what? I'll be the one to care about that prize. He goes, Drew is now behind me. The family drama with the bloodline is now behind me. So I am a solo man ready to main event. Saturday Night Main Event, you and me. And Gunther starts to laugh. And he goes, are you serious? He goes, I admire your courage, but you're naive to think that you have any chance of winning this. He goes, I beat you twice when I had the IC title, and I beat you once with the world. And he goes, I've beaten you so many times, you are not capable of winning. I will expose you for only being the tag team wrestler that you truly are. You are not on my level. You call yourself main event, but I am the main event. So if I was you, I would stick to yeeting. But if you want to fight me at Saturday Night Main Event, the choice is yours. And he gets out of the ring, he walks away. And Jey Uso's kind of pacing back and forth, looking like a pouty kid. He's like, whoa, that hurt my feelings. But he eventually gets the mic and he goes, hold on, I respect you. And you know what? Everything you said is true. He goes, you're right. I don't belong here. And he lists all the, the doubts that people have had for him forever. But guess what? I bet on myself. So Saturday Night Main Event, you will respect me when I beat your ass. Yeet. First off, I thought this was great. I'm looking forward to it. But we got Gunther versus Jey Uso at Saturday Night Main Event for the World Heavyweight Championship. Is that belt being yeeted by Jey Uso? Is he going to be the new champ?
No. Short answer is no. Like I just talked about we saw last Saturday Night Main Event, how if there was a time to change the title, it would have been Cody and KO. Yeah. This one kind of comes out of nowhere in a sense. Yes, they have history. Yes, Jay just beat Drew, but this is hey, we don't really have a match. We don't really have a title match. Gunther, you haven't wrestled in a little bit. Yeah, and Jay, you're pretty over. So yeah, you get out there too. And yeah, go on. That's all this really screams to me. When Gunther comes out, we kind of had questions last week, at least with how is Gunther not on Raw on Netflix? Yeah, you got a little promo package, but he is your champ. How is he not there? And sometimes, admittedly, I'm like, dang, Gunther, sometimes he bores me with this promo. Sometimes it's, well, there's no prestige. Well, there's no prestige. Well, I'm prestige, but there's no prestige. But then, that's how I started this promo. But then he looks at Jey Uso and he's like, yeah, you're just a tag team guy. Dude. And I thought, oh, okay. Gunther has one or two lines of promo that I'm like, okay, I'm back in.
Gunther is a horrible solo promo guy. He really is. When you just have him standing in the ring by himself with nothing to bounce off of, and you have him just reading lines, he fumbles over his words. He sounds very like paper, white bread. But the second he's got another person in there, he starts to dig, and it's like, okay, you're so good. But in terms of this match, yeah, Jay's got no real chance. I'm intrigued. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup. Jey Uso, Gunther. I think that crowd's going to be really into it. It's going to be a fun little match, but no way they put the championship on Jey Uso around WrestleMania or Royal Rumble WrestleMania time. You're going to have Jey in the Royal Rumble. You're not going to have him be the champion going into Royal Rumble. But I'm down for it. We haven't seen Gunther fight in a while. Put him on the card against main event Jey Uso. Let's go to town here. It'll be a yeet and a holler.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, You'll get a couple close pinfalls. You'll maybe get the Uso splash, and the crowd goes crazy, and then Gunther maybe turns that into a submission or something. I don't know, something crazy, like just ripping everybody's hearts out. Anything with Jay at this point, I'm supporting because Jay is just that over, and Gunther's Gunther. So you sign me up for it.
Intercontinental Championship. Someone has to win it. Be the first ever women's champion. We'd have Lyra Valkyria taking on Dakota Kai, and our live stream, our watch along, it was 50-50 basically. A lot of people didn't know what they wanted here, and it was a fun time. But they were ready to put on a show from the second that bell rang, man. They went at each other.
Nasty bumps.
Back and forth, just boom, boom, bam. They end up on the apron. Lyra Valkyria picks up Dakota Kai and suplexes her off the apron flat back onto the outside. Both of them just thud, thunk, right onto the mat. And it goes directly to the commercial. And we have the version where we can see it. It doesn't go to an actual commercial. We just continue to watch. And they're just laying there like, oh.
Yeah, they're laying there. Adam Pearce is checking on both of them because Adam Pearce is like, God, that hurt. I mean, just straight thud. Commercial break continues, and you can tell they are both moving slow. They're both like, God, that might have been a really good idea backstage before we got out here, but God, they paid for that one.
Yeah, they would kind of work their way back into the ring in time for the commercial to be back, and Lyra would kind of dominate the mid part of this match until Kai would get a good old comeback. She'd hit the chiropractor, 1-2, ooh there, and then Lyra would respond right away with a sit-down powerbomb, 1-2, ooh there. Then she would do a top rope leg drop. Kai would eventually pull Lyra over to the apron, do her apron stomp off the ropes that she does. She would do the GTK to Lyra, but Lyra would roll out of the ring. But eventually Kai would pull Lyra back over, set Lyra into the corner because she does her little runaround haluva kick, basically, is what she does.
See, I think of more of it like a broski boot.
It is kind of like a broski
It's not
boot.
down low, it's up high, but
Yeah,
you know.
true. But she would go for the kick. She would miss. And then Lyra Valkyria would put her into the Nightwing 1-2-3. Lyra Valkyria defeats Dakota Kai. She becomes the first ever Intercontinental Women's Champion in what was a spectacular match. I think it was a complete right decision. I think she is the perfect wrestler on Raw to be the IC title compared to SmackDown, who has a great character U.S. champion in Chelsea Green. This was perfect. Pop.
Yeah, this match was great. I mean, when we did our first bracket prediction, I guess, when the bracket first came out, we both had this as a final. You had Dakota Kai and I had Valkyria winning it. You looked at it, I mean, this was everything we could have asked for. I thought it was really solid. I think this one and, the U.S. women's one, I think both matches were great for kind of like a, hey, here's a new era, welcome it in. Valkyria, for somebody that had chance after chance after chance, it seemed like she was so close here, and she was almost the number one contender here, and she was almost queen of the ring here. She gets her rightful spot now. She gets to be that workhorse of the women's division here. I think it is really important that women's IC is going to be the workhorse, and I think that's the perfect person, like you said. I mean, Dakota Kai admittedly does have some injury history, and so maybe you're a little bit hesitant on putting it on her right away. But this was phenomenal. It's fantastic. Just waiting to see, I guess, who's next, because we talked about, the Rhea Liv stuff. They didn't build anybody up in the meantime while that happened. Well, here's a perfect chance for somebody to get built up. Some people are already trying to shoot their shot at it.
Yeah. Lyra will be the workhorse, and if it was me, I would immediately just book Dakota Kai and her to go back and forth for a little bit with it. I think that their match proved that they could do it. Dakota Kai is obviously over as can be with the crowd. If you wanted to, you could even do a tug of war for the first feud for that belt. I would actually think that'd be okay, but Lyra Valkyria has good hands. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, you find out later on in the night, Zoe Stark was shooting her shot for it. Yeah. So why not?
Yeah, who knows?
PFC.
Sami Zayn and The Miz ran into each other early on in the night, and we set up a match here. They had a match. It was probably a couple minutes long. It was back and forth.
Somebody said it was 8 minutes long, but that was with entrances and commercials.
No chance.
No shot. Josh, I'm talking about you.
Back and forth. Sami would hit an exploder. Miz would get some DDTs off, but it ended with basically The Miz tried to run away, and Sami caught him with a haluva kick on the run, and then instead of pinning him after the haluva kick, he picked him up and won with the blue thunder bomb for once, which is actually pretty creative in my opinion here. But Sami beats The Miz. This is totally fine. I was okay with it because I like both of the guys in the ring, but I'm gonna give it a drop just because I think that we're doing our boy Miz pretty wrong here, and it was kind of felt like the only little bit of filler that we had tonight. This felt like a little filler.
Yeah, I felt like we didn't really need it. I'm dropping this. I am full on dropping this. Like, I'm beating the table. Like, I thought this was ridiculous. I don't want to say I'm back on the Sami Zayn hate train yet, because I'm not there. It's not IC level Sami, but it's more so what they're doing to The Miz. It sucks. Yeah. I feel like The Miz needs to be in something meaningful.
Yeah. It's not awesome.
It's not. It's not awesome. I think it is important. Like, you had the chance, you broke the Wyatt Six away from them, and so you're like, okay, maybe you get something meaningful here. Maybe you can kind of reestablish The Miz, and they didn't do any of it. For lack of a better term, it was a squash match tonight. Yep. And he loses to that move, and to tell you how, lack of a better term, terrible the move is, Pat McAfee struggled for about 3 minutes to even say the name of the move.
He did that a lot tonight. Yeah, better for The Miz. Justice for The Miz.
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley, what is she going to do next? She comes out and cuts a promo, and we had us in the live stream, in our watch along, had 5 rules. If she hit these 5 things, we were going to drop it. If she talked about Dom, Mommy's on top, Rhea Bloody Ripley, the title she never lost, and if she ended it with no challenger. But she'd come out and say, Mommy is back on top. That's literally the first thing she said, and she'd go, you know why? Because I'm Rhea Bloody Ripley. We're like, oh, that's 2 for 2.
It's 2.
And then she goes, now I am your champion. And when she lifted the belt up, Nia Jax music hits. We all went, huh? And Nia Jax came out to super boos, by the way. Like, Dom level boo heat. Like,
Dom, New Day, anything like that.
Couldn't talk on the mic. She goes, I can't take this anymore. I spoke to Adam Pearce about this transfer portal that's taking place right now. And now I'm here to talk to mommy. That's what she said. And she goes, I'm letting you know that I am going to win the Rumble. And while you think that, or while Tiffany thinks she's on top, we all know that mommy may be on top as well. But Nia Jax is always the woman on top. And then she sees Bayley out in the crowd, because Bayley's been out in the crowd for a little bit. She watched the IC title match, and she's like, why are you here? And Bayley's like, I'm from here. It's San Jose. And then Nia Jax says something about, I should have assumed that you're from this poor place. She's being a heel. Bayley jumps the barricade because she's got tickets. And then she goes, this is my city, you big old dumb idiot. That's what she said. Words from Bayley's mouth. And then Nia, of course, attacks Bayley. And then pushes Rhea Ripley, and then Rhea headbutts Nia Jax, and then but Nia bounces off of Rhea, pushes her.
She got a headbutt in too.
Yeah, did she? Oh,
it was a headbutt, and she kind of like shrugged it off, and then she headbutted Rhea. Yeah, I was like, oh.
Nia or Bayley would take out Nia's knee, and then when she gets onto one knee, Rhea is able to throw her out of the ring. So Pat McAfee after this says that Nia Jax is transferred to Raw. So, but then Michael Cole is like, well, we don't know that for sure yet. Then Pat McAfee's is like, sources are telling us. So I guess she's part of Raw now. But Rhea comes out. She's now champion. Nia has now transferred to Raw. Bayley's involved in this. What's going on here? Is it Nia Jax taking on Rhea Ripley? Is that what's going on next? Are we going to get a triple threat here?
I don't know. You said the no challenger was one of them. I feel like we could have crossed that off the list because I have no idea.
Yeah.
We're filming this right after Raw, obviously, before SmackDown comes up. Bayley's got a title match on SmackDown. Obviously, she's not going to win that. So we have kind of thought she's going to move to Raw, but Nia Jax was a surprise here. I'm going to drop the segment with like a caveat, I guess. Like, I'm dropping this for Rhea. We didn't really get a lot from her, but the part we got, I was like, it's the same stuff. Bayley continued to show again why. I don't know what it is with Bayley. It just doesn't connect. It just doesn't hit. She really had a chance to call Nia something just mean and something
big
real,
old dumb idiot.
Yeah, I just was like, oh, okay, that's all we got. Nia really saved this segment, which is something that I never thought I would say or never have said before the last maybe year from her. Very solid. How Nia no-sells the headbutt and then headbutts Rhea again makes me think we're going to run it Bayley versus Nia on a Raw, presumably maybe the next Raw or maybe the Raw after Saturday Night Main Event, and then you're going to get Nia versus Rhea at Rumble. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to go with.
Nia versus Rhea would be fantastic. I'm totally down with this. Nia is putting on the best work of her entire career by a mile, in my opinion. And you didn't lose any steam from her title run when it got stolen from her from the Money in the Bank. She still looks like the most dominating person on a roster. She's able to stand up against Rhea Ripley, shrug off a headbutt. That's something that we didn't see at all from Liv or anybody who's come close to Rhea in the past 7 months. So that's immediately intriguing for me. This is the route that I wanted them to take. I'm now invested into a Rhea story if they go that way. Looking forward to it. Give me Rhea versus Nia.
Yeah, let me actually make a caveat there and say not Rhea versus Nia at Rumble because Nia declared for the Rumble. So she's not going to have a title match that night. You get what I mean? Maybe Chamber, maybe something like that. Next thing for Rhea, I assume, is Nia Jax.
Yeah,
would be how I say it, I guess.
Main event time. Priest versus Balor street fight. Priest comes out. He's got a kendo stick. He's filling the ring with all sorts of weaponry. And then before the bell rings, Finn Balor jumps in from behind the ring with a kendo stick of his own. He starts beating up Damian Priest with it. And then Damian steals a kendo stick, beats up Finn Balor with it. They go out to the outside of the ring. Damian's throwing Finn Balor over the announce table. He sets up one table on the outside, but they end up fighting into the crowd, and they go all the way around the arena and to the point where they're on the other side, and they go up the stairs, and it's one of those good old-fashioned spots where where they're high up in the air, and there's some tables below them, and they start beating each other up, and Damian Priest does a Falcon Arrow off of the elevated surface down probably 15 feet through two tables onto Finn Balor, and it was a holy shit moment. Please go watch that if you haven't. Damian Priest is an absolute professional, strong dude. It was awesome. But Finn's getting stretchered out of the arena. You got JD's out there, Carlito's out there. Damian Priest is walking, but I mean, he's stumbling. He gets back to the ring, and the ref's checking up on him. We come back from commercial break, and they're about at the entrance ramp. And Finn Balor now has a neck brace on. He's on the stretcher. Carlito and JD are helping him. And Damian Priest goes, "No, I'm not done." He runs out there. He beats up JD. He beats up Carlito. He starts beating up Finn Balor on the stretcher like he's Vince McMahon in the freaking hospital, and Stone Cold's beating him with a bedpan. He rolls the stretcher and rolls the stretcher down the ramp, and it turns perfectly to where it hits the ring, and Finn Balor just naturally rolls into the ring.
I don't know how they did that. Dude, you couldn't do it again if you tried.
No chance.
It was so cool. I was like, dang, that's awesome.
But so Finn's in the ring where the neck brace just dying. JD and Carlito run in. They try to beat up Damian Priest, which has never worked ever, but it actually starts to work here because they actually get the jump on him. And Carlito does a backstabber. JD does a top rope moonsault. And then Carlito and JD take the neck brace off Finn Balor. And they pick him up and put him on the top rope. And they smack his face and do a coup de grace right now.
And as they take the neck brace off, Finn's like, yeah. He gets brought back to life.
Finn comes to life. Jumps off the top rope. Coup de grace Damian Priest. 1, 2, no. Damian Priest still kicks out of it. JD and Carlito take the time to go to the outside of the ring where there's already a table set up, and they set up another table to presumably, I guess they're going to put Damian Priest through it. But while they're setting it up, War Raiders music hits, champions. They're still there in the WWE. I forgot, because they haven't been on Raw in weeks. And
they had that 6-man tag. Fair. It was them and Damian versus Judgment Day.
Fair. But they scare off JD and Carlito, basically.
They hit the War Machine, right?
Yeah, they hit the War Machine on JD. But so we're left with Damian Priest and Finn Balor in the ring. And they go to the outside of the ring where the tables are. Finn Balor ends up coup de gracing off the apron Damian Priest through a table. And then Finn Balor picks him up, and Damian Priest just goes roar, and he picks up Finn Balor and spears him through the barricade, and then he gives him a razor's edge to the other table. No one's selling anything. It's just a rampage mess here. Finn Balor somehow gets the advantage again. He starts beating Priest with a chair. He then sets a chair up nicely for Priest to sit in, and then takes another chair and puts it around his neck. And he backs up, and he starts to run at him to do something. I guess he's going to drop kick his face or something.
Drop kick, yeah.
But Damian Priest gets up, hits the south of heaven onto Finn Balor. 1, 2, 3. Damian Priest wins. But Damian Priest wins this crazy street fight against Finn Balor. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, is this done? Is this the end of the rivalry? Damian walks away the winner?
Yeah, I would assume this is the end.
Oh, by the way, I'm popping all of this. I thought it was crazy fun.
Yeah, throughout the match, I originally had said I'm dropping this, but then as the match went on, I just chose to accept that, hey, this is overbooked chaos, and I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. I would say this is the end of it. I think it's important that Michael Cole talked about it being a rubber match, that they were tied previously. At the end, Priest hits the one side of heaven, and then he picks him back up, and he says, "I am not my brother's keeper." Hits another one as well on Finn. Kind of just a ceremonious end to it, basically. I think we all kind of want it to be the end. I think this is kind of a fun way to end it all. You can kind of do a clean break, and now Damian can go do whatever. I assume he's going to be in the Rumble, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to end it because I think they love to drag this Judgment Day story out, but it should be the end. I think that this was this was the best version that I see Damian Priest and Finn Balor ending their feud with. It's just a fun, spot-filled, break all the furniture match. Get Finn Balor doing something else. Maybe we finally get the Dom turn on the next episode or coming up. You know, you have Finn just completely unraveling after this loss, and then Liv and Dom can maybe turn face on him or something like that. But let's get both guys just away from each other. I kind of feel the same way about like Rhea and Liv that I do with Finn and Damian. Let's just get these stories completely separate. This was a fun way to do it. Let's end it.
Yeah, I don't know if this isn't the end. I don't know how you would do it. This was fun. This was kind of a decisive end, I would say. I mean, like you said, nobody was really selling anything, but Damian Priest at the end of the day, I mean, he had Finn on a stretcher, and then he continued to keep going. So, Damian kind of inflicted that damage. Damian looks really strong at the end of this. Finn, not so much, but, it is what it is, I guess. And I don't know where you go for Damian from this point. Like I said, I assume maybe Rumble, but I would say Finn's got the more interesting character story coming out of this because it's like, what happens now? Where's the fallout now?
Hopefully, because it's time for Finn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great episode of Raw here. We give it 13 pops to 5 drops, and I feel like the weight of the pops are a lot heavier than the weight of the drops, right? So this is a fantastic episode of Raw. Highly recommended if you can watch it. If you have Netflix, you can watch it right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can watch it right now.
Yeah. So, but finish our review first.
Well, there's not much time left.
Yeah, true. Anyway, follow us on all of our socials at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts at Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. If you want to come watch our live streams for Raw, SmackDown, our watch-alongs, it's right here on YouTube. All you got to do is tune in. It's a fun time, so do it. Share the stream with anybody you know that might like this stuff. We're trying to grow. We do it from word of mouth, so thank you guys so much. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.